In the opening scene, Emma checks the product's display and calls Trevor, her coworker, who's getting coffee for the team. He walks into the shop a few moments later and compliments the display. Emma isn't satisfied with how the display looks, and Trevor comes up with ideas to make it look better, making her happy. He notices Francesca, their coworker, and notifies Emma. Francesca's presence reminds them of the quarterly review meeting that is taking place that day. During the meeting, Francesca complains that their quarterly sales are low and that the bank is slacking as the trendsetter. She wants them to shake up their product line by adapting the trend of being cozy. Emma understands the assignment. They move on to check the application they got in the week. A homemade lotion, Vermont Botanicals, catches Francesca's attention, but Emma is skeptical. Trevor reads the letter that came with the product, and they all feel less doubtful about adding the lotion to their product line. The packaging appeals to Emma and she takes a sniff of the lotion, enjoying the scent of lavender. Emma calls up the manufacturer and Jill Smith answers the call. She thanks Jill for the lotion sample and asks what makes the lotion suitable for the brand. Jill points out it's the ingredients. She finds it hard to explain to Emma over the phone and invites her to Vermont to see everything firsthand. Jill also offers her a room at her family's inn. Emma doesn't agree even when her coworkers encourage her to go, but Jill doesn't take no for an answer, and eventually gets Emma to agree before ending the call. Emma has been outmaneuvered by Jill and now has to pack for the trip. In the next scene, Emma arrives at Jill's family's inn and looks around. A ball comes flying towards her, followed by the voice of a man warning her of the incoming ball. Emma catches the ball and the man runs towards her, apologizing for almost hitting her. He asks if she'd like to play with him and his father, and she agrees. She throws the ball to the man's father, who then scores a touchdown. The man compliments her throwing skills and jokes that he needs pointers. Emma replies that she can do that during her stay, but she's told that the inn is closed due to renovations. Confused, Emma introduces herself as classically Emma, which she's popularly known as, but Jesse, not knowing her, replies that he's Jesse. Just then, Jill runs towards Emma, excited to see her. Jill tells Jesse about Emma and introduces him to Emma as her brother and business partner. She asks for Emma's car keys and tells the now confused Jesse to get Emma's suitcase from the car. Jill gives Emma the best room in the inn and also promises to win Emma as well as her audience over. Emma, moved by her determination, dares Jill to impress her during her stay. Just then, Jesse walks in with the suitcase as well as a bag of groceries and is closely followed by Betty, a shop owner in town. Jill introduces her to Emma, adding that Emma is checking out the Vermont Botanicals. Betty informs Emma that her store was the first to sell the lotion. Just then, Jill and Jesse's father, Carl, walks in with some apple cider donut. He offers the donuts to them and Emma takes one while Carl and Betty split one. Jill comments that her father has a sweet tooth, but Emma thinks it's smart, since being offered a homemade pastry will make people feel cozy. Jill signals to Jesse to take Emma to her room, mouthing a thank you to him as they leave. Emma looks around her room and sees Jesse through her window. He's feeding some chickens and she smiles before walking away. In the next scene, Jill and Jesse show Emma their workshop and Jill shows her the ingredients she uses, as well as what she makes out of herbs. Jesse gets curious as to why she's interested in their brand since it's not a trendy luxury, and she reveals that going for coziness is the simple thing. Jill and Jesse are aware of the latest trend, cozy and simple, and have been experimenting with sustainable packaging options. Jesse thinks sustainability is a good business move for them and tells Jill that he's been researching solar power for the inn. Jill praises Jesse for always finding a way to make finances work when she has creative impulses. It turns out that he has an Ivy League MBA. Jesse then gives Emma some raspberry cream to try on and she falls in love with it. She asks if she could take some pictures and videos to send to her assistant Trevor, and Jill agrees. Later on, Emma talks with Trevor over the phone and confesses that she thinks Jill is the real deal. Trevor comments that he likes the pictures and videos and that he will post them. Emma tells him her findings from her market research, which shows that the homemade organic lotion is a good business. She thanks him for forcing her to visit Vermont and praises him for always giving her the right advice. The next day, Jesse and Jill are in the kitchen. Jesse wonders why Jill didn't tell him about Emma. She admits that she thought he wouldn't understand since he left the big city for a more quiet life, which is the opposite of inviting an influencer to their inn. Jesse thinks that Emma doesn't suit their brand, but Jill thinks differently. Jesse asks if it's a pure marketing plot, and Jill admits that Emma can help their sales get to the national, or even international level, but Jesse reminds her that they decided not to go big. Jill corrects him, saying that he's the one who decided that, not her. She tells him that they need to make it to help their father, who put everything he had into the remodeling of the inn. Just then, she gets a call and is informed that there was a mistake made in her new shipment of jars. She decides to go and check them out and asks Jesse to make breakfast for Emma, as well as show her their mint lime creams. Jesse reluctantly agrees after Jill promises to do anything he wants. In the next scene, Jesse serves Emma breakfast in her room and informs her that he'll be filling in for Jill. She agrees to meet him at the workshop when she's done eating breakfast. Later on, Jesse and Emma go to the workshop and Jesse proceeds to show her the mint line, their newest creams, adding that Jill wanted to touch on the varieties of mints. Emma is surprised that there's more than one mint and guesses 2 kinds of mints. She gets one right and Jesse shows her other varieties of mint they have in the workshop. He shows her one of the creams and Emma falls in love with the packaging as well as the scent of the cream. She asks if she can take a video, but Jesse is unsure and she promises to delete it if he doesn't like it. She asks him to film her and gives him the phone. In the video, she comments that the jar, which had a seafoam color, made her feel at home. After filming, Jesse permits Emma to post the video. In the next scene, Jesse offers Emma some homemade maple lemonade and she gladly accepts it. He had thought that she was from New York, but found out that she was from Massachusetts, and only moved to New York for her business. She's reading the comments on the video she posted and he asks to see them. Emma reads out one of them. The viewer talked about how a restaurant reminded her of her grandmother. Jesse can't believe that people share their personal experiences online, but she assures him that she also does the same thing to form a real relationship with the audience. He wonders how she can have a relationship with her audience and still promote trendy luxury items. Emma informs him that her goal is to give people a break from the stress of life by doing what makes them happy. Emma asks Jesse what makes him happy, but he dodges the question and instead mentions showing her the orchard. Jesse takes Emma around the inn and she compliments his skill in dodging her question. He assures her that it's nothing personal and they decide to play a conversational game. But Jesse doesn't answer accordingly, since he picks answers that are not in the option. He, in turn, asks Emma and she answers the questions honestly. When asked if she has answers outside of the options provided, she states that she doesn't need to make life complicated. During the game, Emma finds out that a hike inspired the Vermont botanicals. She is curious to know the story. But before Jesse could tell her, Jill interrupts them. He asks about the jar, and Jill answers positively, saying that it's nice that each of the jars has a unique color. She's excited about the number of orders they've been getting since Emma posted her video. She informs Jesse that they've run out of shipment supplies and takes him away. In the next scene, Emma calls Trevor and discusses Vermont botanicals, which has now gained 3 stars. They both agree that Francesca would be giddy with joy over the news. Just then, Francesca calls. She is happy about their new rise in sales and wants it to remain the same. She asks how things are going and Emma admits that it'll be a little bit hard to convince Jesse, but she'll make it work. In the next scene, Emma goes downstairs and offers to help Carl and Jesse set up the table, but they refuse her help because she's a guest. Carl reveals to Emma that Jill has never seen that many orders, and just then, Jill joins them. She tells her father that it's time for a greenhouse, or even a large farm, which will help her provide natives with botanicals. Jill's ideas are great and Emma wants to know how she can achieve them, asking if she could handle over 1,000 orders. She finds out that they occasionally work with a co-packing company when the need arises, but Jill expresses her wish to get bigger facilities so that the business can continue to remain in-house. She suggests that they do something fun the next day, which is make some creams, and teach Emma some of production processes. Jill, who got carried away, remembers that the dinner is still in the oven and leaves to get it. She returns with a tray of food. Jesse reaches for the tray, but is stopped by his father, who wants to make a toast. Carl is infamous for his bizarre toasts, so they let Emma know. Carl then challenges Jesse to bring it on, as Jill joins him in clapping, leaving poor Emma confused. It turns out that Jesse was in a boy band during his college days, but he's reluctant to sing, causing Emma and Jill to boo him. Jesse apologizes for challenging his master, Carl, and lets him make a toast. After the nice and short toast, they start eating. Jesse offers Emma some rolls but takes them back, informing her that the roll isn't keto or low carb. Emma is fine with that and comments that only a skilled baker could make those kinds of rolls, causing Carl to laugh. After dinner, Jesse takes the dishes to the kitchen while Jill washes them. He tells her that she was right about Emma and that he thinks she's someone they can work with. Jill is happy that he feels the same way about Emma as she does. Jesse wants to know if being a successful brand is what Jill wants and promises to help her throughout. He mentions how he doesn't want anything from his past to stop her from achieving her dreams. Jill is happy to hear this and they hug. In the next scene, Emma walks up to Jesse who shows her the wild blueberries he picked. He suggests that they make some blueberry pancakes with some local maple syrup and Emma agrees. In the kitchen, Jesse dishes out 2 plates of pancakes topped with some blueberries and maple syrup. He boasts that he's known for his blueberry pancakes in the town. Emma takes a bite and enjoys it. Jesse mentions that Jill wants to pamper Emma, which is why he made her the pancakes for breakfast. He believes that breakfast is the best meal of the day, which should be savored and not eaten in a rush. Emma believes that there's a need for rush at times. Jesse also thinks there's a need to savor the food. In the next scene, they walk in on Jill at the workshop. She's making body butter and shows Emma how she does it. After taking the mixture to cool in the refrigerator, she expresses how she wants them to have fun. They film some funny moments together until the butter is ready, and then they show her their little secret weapon, a hand mixer. Jill wants to add an essential oil before mixing, so Jesse suggests that Emma pick an oil. Emma goes with maple oil because it's famous for getting rid of wrinkles. They also encourage her to do the honors of mixing the butter. She refuses at first, but agrees eventually. Jill also asks if she could take a video and Emma allows her. Emma expresses her appreciation for Vermont botanicals for showing her their little secret. When she's done mixing butter, she takes a bit of it and rubs it on her hands. At the end of the video, Jessie jumps in to announce that it's classically Emma's first body butter. Jill remembers she has to go check on the new shipment that just came in. She asks Jessie to show Emma the rest of the line before leaving. Next, Jessie adds some maple oil to the butter and continues mixing. Afterward, Jessie and Emma sit as he starts filling jars with butter. She calls him a man of all talents, listing the things she's seen him do. Emma wants to know what their best seller is and Jessie reveals that it's anything with lavender, adding that the smell of lavender relieves stress. He also gives her a lavender serum to try. Emma deduces that it makes people happy, which brings her back to her unanswered question. She asks Jessie what makes him happy once again, but he talks about his family's happiness. She asks again and he confesses that he hasn't been asked the question in a long time but replies anyway, saying that the simple things make him happy. Simple things like a smile or a sunset. He adds that he's happy in that moment and Emma feels the same, staring at Jessie for some time. It suddenly gets awkward and Emma makes an excuse to leave, but she's stopped by Jessie, who offers to show her how Vermont botanicals started. He asks her to go on a hike with him and she immediately agrees to do so. In the next scene, Emma and Jessie are walking down a path. He asks what her trail name is but she doesn't have one. His trail name is Edgestir because he stops at steep edges to look at the view. He gives her a trail name, City Girl, but changes it to Butterfly Whisperer. This is when Jessie apologizes to her for thinking she wasn't suitable for their brand. Emma confesses that she didn't want to come but was forced by her coworkers. Jessie tries to take back his apology playfully, so Emma tells him that he can't do that, with a similar playfulness. She brings up what he said at the end of the video about her releasing a classically Emma body butter, and finds out that he wasn't joking. Emma comes up with the idea of making a classically Emma maple line and he likes the idea. In the next scene, Carl goes to Betty's shop dressed to the nines and pretends to be getting something. Betty spots him and walks up to him, complimenting his outfit. He confesses that he came to ask her how he looked, adding that he's been getting fashion tips from Emma. Betty thinks he has always looked good and adds that a gentleman shines from inside out. Carl wants to ask her a question, but she's called to the register. She wants to know his question but Carl lies instead, stating that he was going to ask about face cream. Betty doesn't believe him. Back on the hike, Emma asks when he's going to tell her the origin story. He tells her to be patient as they're almost at their destination. They get to a field of wildflowers and he tells her how Jill found the field. According to him, Jill felt inspired by it and started planting the same flowers at the inn. Then she started making soaps for the inn which became popular. This prompted her to start an entire brand of toiletries. Jill found her passion. Emma wonders if Jessie had found his passion too, but he confesses that it's hard to see beyond the small world he's created for himself, until he opens his eyes to all the possibilities. Later in the evening, Jessie and Emma return to the inn. Jill is there too and Emma informs her that they visited the wildflower field. She asks what Jill thinks about partnering with classically Emma on a maple line. Jill excitedly agrees to do it. Emma suggests throwing an announcement party and the siblings agree, adding that they can do it in the barn. In the next scene, Emma goes downstairs and sees Carl standing close to the ice cream machine, confused. He complains that the ice cream is too runny and she offers to check. She tells him that the machine is too close to the wall, which made the ice cream overheat and melt. They move the machine forward and enjoy some maple cream afterward. Jessie walks towards the kitchen and listens in on Carl and Emma's conversation. He smiles when Emma mentions that she may never leave the inn. Emma asks Carl about his relationship with Betty but he says that there's nothing to talk about, because he doesn't think he's ready to start dating. She knows that they have feelings for each other and encourages him to go for it, adding that Jill and Jessie are in full support. She suggests that he should invite her to the party. The next day, Emma, Carl, and Jessie go to Betty's shop. Jessie tells her some facts about the shop and Carl leaves to do some shopping, but Emma knows that he's going to meet Betty. She sees some maple syrup and picks one up. Jessie delivers a corny pickup line involving maple, causing Emma to laugh. Then, they head towards Betty and Carl. Betty asks Jessie to help his father place an order for a sandwich, which is surprising to Jessie since his father loves all the sandwiches. Carl gives way for Jessie and Emma to place an order. Jessie then asks Betty to give him her favorite cheese since Emma is new in town. Betty picks some cheddar cheese and Carl starts talking about random cheese facts. Emma notices that he's having a hard time asking Betty to the party and decides to inform Betty that there's an upcoming party. Carl then gathers the courage to invite Betty, who gladly accepts his invitation. Jessie soon realizes that something is going on and asks Emma about it, but she plays dumb. In the next scene, Emma and Jessie take a walk and he informs her that he's never seen his father act the way he did at the shop, adding that he thinks Emma is affecting Carl. Emma confesses that he bribed her with an ice cream. They get to a place with a mat and some food on it. It turns out that Jessie had prepared it for her. They sit down to enjoy the food and Emma tries cheese and maple butter, despite Jessie's warning. She likes it and makes Jessie try it too. Afterward, Jessie asks Emma about her hometown while he makes a bracelet out of wildflowers. She talks about her hometown and assures him that she also loves New York. He asks how she feels about Vermont and she admits that she's starting to enjoy the pace of the place. Emma proceeds to ask if he has ever left Vermont and finds out that he left for college and returned when his mother passed away, before leaving again for his MBA. He worked for some time and didn't like corporate life, so he then returned to use his business acumen to help his family. He then asks for her hand and ties the bracelet to her wrist. She asks if he always makes wildflower bracelets and he confesses that he hasn't felt like making one till recently. Jesse leans in to kiss her while Emma takes a look at the bracelet, which results in their heads bumping. She apologizes and Jesse just laughs. Later on, Jesse and Emma return to the inn and meet Carl and Jill outside. Jesse points out the old porch bench that they brought out for the party. Just then, Emma gets a call from Trevor and has to leave. Jesse also leaves shortly after. Jill and Carl giggle, knowing that something is up between Emma and Jesse. In the next scene, Emma video calls Trevor and is curious as to who will cover the party. Trevor reveals that he got someone who always rejected them to say yes this time around. Emma immediately knows who he's talking about and praises him. She tells him that she'll send more pictures and videos to keep the buzz growing, before ending the call. The next day, Emma, Jill, and Jesse work on setting up the barn for the party. Carl walks in with some lamps for the table design and Emma loves it. He announces that there'll be a string playlet, which makes Jill excited. They decorate the inside of the barn. Carl walks into the barn, holding some cold apple cider. Just then, Trevor shows up with a cutout of Emma. Emma is happy to see him and introduces him as her right-hand man. Carl greets him and offers to take him to his room. Trevor gives Emma an envelope from Francesca, takes a glass of apple cider, and leaves with Carl. Jill then makes up an excuse to leave Jesse and Emma alone. Emma tells Jesse that the envelope contains a preliminary agreement that they should sign. Just then, the violinist arrives asking where she should sit up. In the next scene, Jill is picking out some clothes when Emma and Trevor walk in. Emma is wearing a beautiful red dress. She's looking stunning as ever, according to Jill. Trevor is holding a suit bag filled with dresses from New York and Emma asks him to pick out a dress for Jill, something that'll make her the star of the night. They try to pick from her clothes but end up bringing out the New York dresses for her to try out. Jill excitedly runs to the room to try them on. Jill comes out of the room to show them each dress so they can pick one. But Emma isn't satisfied with the dresses. She mentions a dress she saw Jill wearing in a picture in the lobby. Jill remembers the dress, one which belonged to her mother, and leaves to get it. Meanwhile, Carl sits on the old porch bench outside and is approached by Betty. He's happy that she came and asks her to dance with him. She points out that there is no music, but he says that they can make their own music. Later on, Emma and Trevor watch as guests start arriving and spot Edward Hawke, a leading investor in beauty and cosmetic companies. Just then, Jill comes down in a lace dress and receives praise for her attire. Emma leaves to talk with Edward Hawke. She sees him talking with Jesse and commending them for getting Classically Emma to promote the brand, but adds that Classically Emma doesn't have enough money to take the business far. He mentions he has more connections in the skincare business. Emma is distraught upon hearing this and watches as Jesse speaks to the man. He asks if Jesse has signed anything, so Jesse shows him the contract Emma gave him. Edward takes the contract and tears it apart. Seeing this, Emma walks away, saddened by what she saw. Meanwhile, Carl is speaking with a guest when he sees Emma. He gives her a wildflower bracelet, one which Jesse had asked him to give to her, and then thanks her for what she's doing for his children. He also adds that he's never seen Jesse with so many sparks in his eyes. He assures her that she can talk to him if anything is wrong, but Emma doesn't think he can help in this case. Quoting his mother, Carl says that sometimes all a person needs is someone to listen. This leads to them talking about how Carl's parents met. It was on a train. His father stayed on the train after spotting his mother, despite passing his stop. He had to find somewhere to stay and spent the night at the Maple Seed Inn, which is now owned by Carl. He reminds her that if she ever needs a late-night chat, she could use his maple cream machine. She thanks him before he leaves. Trevor walks up to her and notices that something is off. Emma tells him that Jill and Jesse were using them for social media and marketing to sign a deal with Edward Hawke. Trevor is confused since they have an agreement, but Emma informs him that they didn't sign anything yet. Trevor knows that it's not just about the agreement, so Emma confesses that she got sucked in. She can't believe that she got deceived. Trevor tries to calm her down. Emma doesn't know what she'll say to Francesca, but with the help of Trevor, she feels better and points out that it was just one product. However, it's obvious that she isn't talking about the product. Trevor guesses that she's fallen in love with Jesse, which she confirms. He apologizes for forcing her to go there and hugs her. When it's time for her presentation, Trevor walks her to the stage. Everyone applauds as she gets on the stage. She starts talking but goes blank midway and runs out, with Jesse following after her. She goes to the picnic spot and sees the place decorated. Jesse shows up behind her, informing her that he planned to surprise her after the party. She's confused and confronts him for signing a deal with Edward, but Jesse explains that he knew Edward from his corporate days, pointing out that Edward was never interested in Vermont botanicals till Emma started promoting them. He was never planning on signing with Edward because he couldn't bear the thought of losing her. He brings out a box with a key to the inn. Emma smiles and confesses that she feels the same way. He leans in to kiss her, but gets interrupted by Emma, who reminds him that she still has to make the announcement. At the party, Trevor and Jill try to occupy the guests, but run out of ideas. Just then, Emma returns in Jessi's arms, the crowd cheering for her. She announces their partnership for the Maple line and gives a short speech before Jessi makes a toast to their partnership. Jessi turns to Emma and tells her that he has something he wants to tell her. He thinks meaningful coziness can be the two of them snuggling under a blanket, ingesting hot chocolate. Emma agrees with him, looking deeply into his eyes. Jill speaks up for everyone and asks them to kiss. Emma kisses Jessi as the crowd cheers for the new couple. They then look up at the sky as fireworks go off.